I said.
Fine, thank you. Right, good morning, everyone. Today we will be discussing one important, what we say, classification technique, naive-Bayes classifier. Already we have seen, but today we will be discussing one famous example where naive-Bayes classifier was proved to be very much successful. So that is text classification. So before we get into text classification, right, let us try to understand two small topics which are related to naive-Bayes algorithm only, right? So we will quickly try to understand these two small topics, and then we will go for application of naive-Bayes classifier for text classification. So friends, naive-Bayes classifier case study, which is text classification, you can expect it as an essay type question in your external exam, right? You can expect it as an external exam question. Please make a note of it. So when you get naive-Bayes classification question, you can give this example which we are going to solve today, right? I don't think in one class we can solve it, but we will of course start that text classification problem today. So please, each and every one of you, please listen carefully, and this can become one of your what we say essay type question or part B question in your external exam, right? And it's a very important case study, real time application. Like in test classification, naive-Bayes is widely used, and its success rate is somewhere around 86%, which is really great, right? So friends, before we move on, yesterday in the last class we have seen what is argmax, right? So what is the purpose of argmax? We have seen. So what is argmax means? If at all we have multiple hypotheses available for a particular problem statement, then we want to select the best possible hypothesis, or the hypothesis which gives me more accurate answer, or you can say the hypothesis which will offer minimum errors, right? Or you can say the hypothesis which will create very less loss, right? So like that, there are several ways of using the word best possible hypothesis. So friends, if you have multiple hypotheses and if you want to select the best possible hypothesis, even in that case, you can use naive-Bayes or you can say Bayes theorem can be applied. So what we have done is, how do we use Bayes theorem to find the best possible hypothesis? We have to calculate argmax. So what is argmax? We have seen in our last class. So probability of D by H into probability of H you have to compute, and here this small h represents the hypothesis, right? This small h represents the hypothesis. Let me try to give you a quick recap of what we have discussed in the last class, right? And then we will move on quickly, right? So just 1 second, I'll get my pen. Right. So based on this argmax only, we have another concept called as minimum description length principle. You can expect this one as a what we say part A question. This one paragraph or one definition which you are seeing, you can expect it as a part A question. What is minimum description length principle, right? So before that argmax, so we have discussed yesterday, like for a problem I may have multiple hypotheses, so which is represented as a set capital H, and this capital H may have H1, H2, H3, H4, like that. So I can have any number of hypotheses, right? Not any number, you can say multiple hypotheses are possible for a particular problem statement. We have seen that in candidate elimination algorithm also. We have seen in decision trees also, there is a possibility of having multiple solutions for a problem. But in that, what is the best possible solution? What is the solution which offers me a very less number of errors, right? That is the one which I would like to pick. So whether it is H1, H2 or H3 or H4, I don't know. So in order to identify the best possible hypothesis, we need to calculate argmax, which we have done in our last class. So what is the purpose of argmax? To compute or to identify the best possible hypothesis from the hypothesis set. So this is argmax. And what is the formula for argmax? P of h by d. So we were actually supposed to calculate probability of h by d. And you apply Bayes theorem, you know what is P of h by d formula. P of h by d formula is P of d by h into ph. P of d by h into ph. P of d by h into ph, probability of h, divided by P of d. Right. So basically this is a constant, and for all hypotheses P of d will remain same. So you ignore it, because now what we will do for P of h1 of d formula is same, P of h2 of d formula is same. For third hypothesis, fourth hypothesis, the formula remains same. And in that formula, if you observe, P of d is common. So since the denominator is common, we need not consider it. So if you ignore this part, you are left with only P of d by h into P of h. This is the one. P of d by h into P of h. So whichever hypothesis is giving you the maximum value for P of d by h into P of h, that hypothesis is considered to be argmax, right? And that hypothesis is considered to be the best hypothesis also. So this is what we have discussed yesterday. Now based on that, we have another small topic called as minimum description length principle. Now what minimum description length principle says is, you know what is HMAP, right? So we know what is HMAP. HMAP is equal to argmax of, based on this formula, we will find argmax. Now what we are supposed to do is argmax, H belongs to capital H. Now we are aware of what is small h, what is capital H, right? Log of P of d by h plus log of P of h. This value you have to compute. And another component is defined, which is called as argmin, right? And its value is minus log of P of d by h minus log of P of h. So like argmax, we have one more component called as argmin, right? Now what do you mean by argmax? What do you mean by this minimum description length principle means? It's very simple, right? The optimal code for an event with the probability is log p bits base 2, log p base 2 bits. So shortest expected coding length. So friends, this is actually this word called as expected coding bits. Whatever word coding bits you are seeing here, right? This word is actually derived from a subject called as information theory, right? This subject called as information theory, this itself is a very big subject, right? Of course, it's not at all what we say a part of our syllabus. It's a totally a different subject called as information theory, right? So in information theory, there is a concept called as representing any information in the form of coding bits. You try to represent any information in the form of coding bits or in the form of codes, right? Just like encoding decoding concept, you try to represent anything in the form of code, right? So that concept of representing any information in the form of coding bits is used here. And what we are trying to derive from this information theory subject is, we are going to prefer the hypothesis. See the last line, see here. We are going to prefer the hypothesis that minimizes the length of the hypothesis plus length of misclassifications, right? So what minimum description length principle says is, when we try to represent the hypothesis length, right, how do I get the length of hypothesis? So this is the main part, sir. Try to understand this one. Length of the hypothesis, right? Now if I have, let us say 4 hypotheses I have for the same problem, H1, H2, H3, H4. So what should I do is, I need to find a length of H1, length of H2, length of H3, length of H4. Now comes the question, sir, how do I find the length of this hypothesis? Very simple, find this argmin. Find this argmin to find the length of the hypothesis. So here Hy d by h is there, no? I'll substitute H1, H2, H3, H4 like that. If I have 4 hypotheses, 4 times I will find argmin, and I will see which hypothesis is giving me a least possible length value. Now what I need to do is, I need to find length of the hypothesis and also the length of the misclassifications. Misclassifications means, what do you mean by misclassification? Can anybody answer what is a misclassification? Can anybody answer what is a misclassification? Please respond. What is misclassification? Anybody can answer? Giving wrong class label as output. Excellent, excellent. That's what misclassification means. You are supposed to generate the output like he will go for playing tennis, but your model or your hypothesis says he will not go for playing tennis, means wrong output. So suppose, let me make it more clear. Suppose I have H1 as the hypothesis. This H1 was committing like 3 mistakes out of 10, let us say 3 by 10. Out of 10 records, for 7 records it was giving me correct answer. For 3 records it has given me wrong answer. Right? So that is called as my training error. For the same problem, another hypothesis is there, but it was giving me 4 misclassifications. So this is what is misclassifications, means how many times it gave me a wrong answer. Now what is length of H1? This is the formula you have to apply and you will get the length. So for example, length of H1 is X plus what are the number of misclassifications of H1? 3. And length of H2, let us assume I got the answer as some Y. Plus what is the number of misclassifications in H2? 4. Now I need to check whether X plus 3, this answer is greater than Y plus 4 or not. And I need to select the one which is minimum. The one which is minimum. So the way we have selected best possible hypothesis using argmax, there is another method of selecting the hypothesis or best possible hypothesis using a technique called as minimum description length principle. So friends, there are only 2 components. One is called as length of the hypothesis. Another one is the number of misclassifications you found during training. Number of training errors, you can simply say number of training errors, number of errors you found during training, right? How do I find length of H? Formula is here. So you find length of H, add these number of misclassifications, you will get a number. So which hypothesis is giving you the minimum value, that hypothesis is considered to be the best hypothesis. So minimum description length principle is another way of identifying the most accurate or the most suitable hypothesis, right? I hope this is clear. So we'll move on. Gibbs algorithm, right? Now when I read it out, Bayes optimal classifier provides best result. See, the statement itself says Bayes optimal classifier provides best result. Bayes classifier provides best result, but can be expensive if many hypotheses are present, right? So name Bayes optimal classifier is really good, but it can be expensive. So please try to underline this point and please try to remember this point. It will give you best result, no doubt, but it can be expensive. So if at all you think I have large number of hypotheses, right, and I think computational cost is more. It will take lot of time for execution. It is very expensive. If you think like that, then you can go for another alternative, which is called as Gibbs algorithm. Got the point? It's called as Gibbs algorithm. But if you observe, friends, right, in the very first line, very clearly it is mentioned like naive Bayes classifier provides you best results. So Gibbs algorithm, without any doubt, it is less optimal. Means it is less effective when compared to Bayes optimal classifier. When compared to Bayes classifier, Gibbs is less optimal, or you can say less effective. Right. So what we will do in Gibbs algorithm, instead of trying out all hypotheses, instead of applying argmax and or minimum description length principle, because if I find argmax also, I need to check all hypotheses for P of D by H into P of H, right? Then only I can find the best possible hypothesis. But if I have many hypotheses, then obviously it will become costly. So instead, there is an alternative called as Gibbs algorithm. And what Gibbs algorithm says is choose one hypothesis at random. Choose one hypothesis at random according to P of H by D. Use this to classify the new instance. So what Gibbs algorithm says is, suppose you are solving a problem and for that problem there exist 4 solutions. Let us call them as H1 and H2 and H3, and even let us say H4, let us say H5. Now what I will try to do is, if I apply argmax or minimum description length principle, I can find out of H1, H2, H3, H4, H5 which one is really good, which one is more accurate, I can find. But what Gibbs algorithm says is, instead of wasting time in finding the best possible hypothesis, you can pick any one of the hypotheses randomly. So in that case, what will happen? Let us say I will pick this H2. Let us say I will pick this H2 randomly. Randomly, you can pick any hypothesis. That is what Gibbs algorithm says. I can pick H2, H3, H4, H5 or H1. It's up to me. Now what he says, use this to classify the new instance. So instead of selecting the best possible one, Gibbs algorithm says you can select any random hypothesis as per your choice, right? So that is, let us say H2. Now what is the important point in H2 is, assume that the target concepts are drawn at random from H according to the priors on H, then E of error Gibbs will be less than or equal to 2E of errors Bayes optimal classifier. Don't get confused. It's very simple. What Gibbs algorithm says is, sir, why are you taking the pain of identifying the best possible hypothesis among H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6 like that? Randomly pick any one hypothesis. Nothing will happen. If you pick H1 or H2 or H3, what will happen is, for example, I have picked H2, but just imagine H5 is the most accurate hypothesis, but I did not calculate argmax or I did not apply minimum description length principle. I don't know that H5 is the best hypothesis. I don't know. And what I have done, as per Gibbs algorithm, randomly I picked one hypothesis which is H2. So I know that I don't know that H5 is the best one. I picked H2 randomly. So what will happen is if at all you picked H2, then obviously since it is not the best possible hypothesis, obviously the errors in H2 will be more. But what Gibbs algorithm says is, even though if you take a non-optimistic hypothesis, the number of errors will never exceed twice the number of errors in the best hypothesis. For example, H5 is the best hypothesis. Let us say the maximum number of errors that can occur if I use H5 is, let us say, some X. Now instead of using H5, if I select H2, what will happen is obviously H2 is not the best hypothesis, H5 is the best hypothesis. I did not identify which one is the best. Randomly I picked H2. Even though if I pick H2, what will happen is the number of errors that are generated because of H2 will never exceed 2x. Means the best hypothesis, whichever is there, the errors of that best hypothesis, if you think it is as X, the remaining hypothesis, we suppose if H5 is best, so if you pick H1 or H2 or H3 or H4, any other hypothesis, still the number of errors will not exceed or will not go beyond 2x, right? And if you are fine with that, means if you accept this error rate, if you think that okay, fine, anyhow it is not crossing 2x, I am fine with this error rate, then you need not find the best possible hypothesis. You can use any random hypothesis from that set. That is what is the meaning of Gibbs algorithm. Is it clear to everyone? Gibbs algorithm is clear to everyone? Please let me know in the chat box. Come on, respond. Please respond, my dear students. Yeah, please respond and we will move on to our text classification example. So is Gibbs algorithm clear to everyone? Yeah, is it clear? But as a doubt, but random selection according to P of H by D. Yeah, random selection according to P of H by D. So what I will do, if I have 10 hypotheses, what I'll do is I'll not do P of H by D for all 10. I'll do it for H1 and H2. I'll pick any one, right? And in fact, you need not even do it for all hypotheses. That's what I'm saying. See, when you know that out of H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, when you know that H2, whatever you are picking randomly, is not, or it may not be the best one, then in any case you end up with 2e errors or 2x errors or something less than or equal to 2x errors, right? So if at all you are getting minimum errors, then it means that luckily randomly you picked the best one, right? So theoretically Gibbs algorithm seems to be good because it says that the error rate or the malfunction of the wrong hypothesis or the less inaccurate hypothesis, its error rate is not too much different from the best possible hypothesis. So you can compromise like that, Gibbs algorithm says. But technically speaking, Gibbs algorithm is not used. People use Bayesian classifier only because friends, today we have lot of computational power available. Today we are not restricted to use only CPUs. Now we are in the era of GPUs, so we have enough computing power. Computational cost is not a overhead for us today. So computing power we have. So instead of going for Gibbs algorithm, obviously people will try to go for naive Bayes and try to pick the best possible hypothesis by applying argmax, and obviously try to use the most effective hypothesis, right? So Gibbs algorithm, yes, there is an option, and we have discussed it, but is it really used means the chances are very less, right? So fine. So we will move on, and now we will try to solve one problem. Of course, I don't know in 20 minutes we can solve it or not, but I am not in a hurry. At least we will start it today. It is very important. The next topic which we are going to discuss now is very important. It can be one of your external examination question, my dear friends. So I want every one of you to listen carefully, right? So this is a essay type part B question based on naive Bayes classifier. Already detecting whether disease, cancer disease is there or not, that problem we have solved. That is one example. This is another important example. This is also very important, my dear friends. Right? So naive Bayes classifier for text classification. So this is the what we say problem which we are going to solve. So friends, as I told you in the beginning of the class, naive Bayes classifier is widely used in text classification, and its success rate is really good, somewhere around 86% or more than that. So naive Bayes classifiers are widely used for text classification. One such real-time example is spam classification, right? And email classification. Both are different, friends. Spam classification means if the email is considered to be spam, it will go to spam, and it will not come into your inbox. And even in the inbox also, even in the inbox, if you are using Gmail, you may be aware some of the mails will go into a category called as social, some of the mails will go to a category called as promotions, some mails will go to a category called as primary, some mails will go to a category called as promotion updates, then forums. Like that, if you observe, even in your Gmail, you might have seen it or you might have noticed it, I don't know, right? I hope you should be aware of this one, right? So how this classification is done? Automatically some mails will go to spam, right? So spam will be detected automatically. Of course, if you observe, sometimes some genuine mails will also go to spam. You might have noticed it. Some of the genuine mails will also go to spam, and people will call you and they say, sir, I have sent you an email, did you see? You will say, no, I did not get any email. And that fellow says, no, sir, I have sent it, it is in my sent mails also, I have seen it is sent, sir. Then again, if you go and check in the spam, sometimes you will find it. So sometimes, even though the email is not spam, it is considered to be spam. That is a proof that these machine learning algorithms are not 100% perfect. So let us accept it. All machine learning algorithms, they are not 100% accurate. But anything above 85, 86 or somewhere close to 90% of accuracy is considered to be a very good performance of a machine learning algorithm. Keep this point in mind, right? So now let us try to understand how this classification of emails are. Email contains what? It contains text only. So how this text classification is done? So our interest is to understand this text classification, my dear friends, right? So now let us take some training data. Obviously, the way we had a playing tennis data set which we have used in our previous examples, now let us have some training data, right? So this is my data set, my dear friends. This is my data set. See my data set, how it will look like. Hi Ram, how are you? Right? Data uploaded, sir. You can win 10 lakhs. Join our network free of cost. Connect me, connect with me live. Right? Friends, please observe this carefully. Please observe this carefully. This is the data set. And if you observe or if you recollect our previous playing tennis data set, there were total 5 columns, right? Outlook, temperature, humidity, wind, and playing tennis. Playing tennis was our output variable. So here we have only 2 columns, and this first column is the text, right? And the second column is the class. Think output, you can say output. So, hi Ram, how are you? This is a very common mail, right? So it can't be a spam. So I call it as not spam. So this is my training data, which I have some data. Some of them are examples of spam. Some of them are examples of not spam. And based on that, I need to generate a classifier. I need to create a classifier, and that classifier should tell me for a new statement, for a new sentence, for a new email. It should tell me whether that new email, whether that new sentence is a spam or not spam. So for that, I have my training data. Data uploaded, sir. This can be a message sent to me by one of my employees, so it's not spam. You can win 10 lakhs. You tell me who will give you 10 lakhs free of cost. So obviously these are spam mails only. Join our network free of cost. Obviously spam. Connect me with live. No, remove this. Shift home. Delete. Hi Ram. Neha is waiting. Click to connect. These are phishing emails, my dear friends. Right? They try to divert you. They try to attract you by certain what do you say, these kind of messages, right? So what will happen most of the time, especially youngsters, by seeing this message, hi Ram, Neha is waiting, click to connect. Who is this Neha? Where is this Neha? Why should I connect? These many questions will not come in the mind of a young person. So what will happen now? Okay, let me connect. We will see what will happen. Like that, people will try to connect, and most of the time, these kind of messages are very, very dangerous, my dear friends. They are very dangerous. They are very dangerous. Right? So they are very, very dangerous, and obviously they are spam only. Right? So here in my data set, I have my data set like this. I have only 2 columns. One is the text and another one is the class. So how many classes I have? Only 2. In playing tennis example also we have 2 classes. Yes or no? Here spam or not spam? Fine. Now friends, this is my data set. Now I need to apply Bayes theorem. So what is my job now? I need to use Bayes theorem. OREM, right? I need to apply my Bayes theorem, and you know very well what is Bayes theorem. P of A by B, P of A by B is equal to P of B by A into P of A into P of A divided by P of B. Right? This is the Bayes theorem we know very well. Right? Now what we want is or a new statement, like this is my data set, 5 examples which you have seen here, 5 examples which you have seen here, this is my data set. Now in these 5 examples, how many are spam? 3 are spam. How many are not spam? 2 are not spam. Just like our playing tennis example, there 14 records were there, 9 were yes, 5 were no. So what was the probability of yes, 9 by 14? What was the probability of no, 5 by 14? Similarly, friends, similarly here I will calculate my basic probabilities. Probability of spam is equal to total how many records I have? 5. In that how many are spam? How many are spam? 3 are spam. So probability of spam is 3 by 5, which is 0.6. Probability of not spam is 2 by 5. Total number of records are 5, in which 2 are not spam. 5 fours are 20. So 0.4 is probability of not spam. Please try to recollect our previous example which we have done, cancer detection. Probability of yes is equal to 9 by 14. Probability of no is equal to 5 by 14, because there were 14 records in our data set and 9 were yes, 5 were no. Similarly, just exactly same example with a different names, that's all. So total number of records were 14 there. Here I have only 5 records. Out of those 5 records, right? Out of those 5 records, spam are 3, not spam are 2. So probability of spam is equal to 3 by 5. Probability of not spam is 2 by 5. And what I need to find is, right, let us try to understand what is our requirement. Right, we need to find the probability of class spam or not spam for a given sentence in an email. For example, I got an email like this. This is the message. Please observe this carefully. Ram, are you coming? One second. Ram sir, are you coming tomorrow? Suppose this is a email. Now I don't know, this is a new message, this is a new mail. Now my program or now my name based classifier should tell, now my name based classifier should tell whether this is spam or not. So you understood what is the problem we are supposed to solve. So this is my new message for which I don't know whether it is spam or not. This is not in my training data. This is a new message, new email, right? So what I'll do is, based on these 5 examples, based on this data set, I will construct a name-based classifier. That classifier should tell whether this example comes under spam or not spam. So to make things a little bit simple, I'll write this as x equal to. Now what I need to calculate is, what is the probability of this x to become spam, or what is the probability of this x to be not spam. Both calculations I need to do, and which one is giving me more value, that will be my decision. So friends, something like this, what I need to calculate now, probability of spam given x. Given x means probability of spam given x means, for Ram sir, are you coming tomorrow? This message is spam or not? What is the probability? Probability of not spam given x. So see here, these are the 2 things which I need to find, and if you observe, they are now, don't you think they are looking in the form of P of A by B, our Bayes theorem. P of A by B, is it not looking like this? P of A by B, right? So I got it into my Bayes theorem form. So I need to find probability of spam for this given X. Similarly, I need to find probability of not spam for this given X. Whichever probability is more, accordingly I will decide that the given X is a spam or not spam. Now tell me, till this point is it clear or not? Now tell me, till this point is it clear or not? So I thought of explaining you text classification using Naive, but if you observe, to set up the question, to understand the prerequisites, it took around half an hour. So you understood what exactly we are trying to solve now? Is it clear to everyone? Please let me know. Yes, please respond. $88, $514, D5, 72, 515. Yeah, please respond. So now you understood what exactly we are trying to solve, right? So this kind of question you will get in your external exam also, like text classification using Naive. Now what you have to do is you have to derive these basic parameters first. So this is what is the homework kind of thing, or the minimum basic steps which you have to identify. So this data set will be given text class. Now number of records you can count, 5 records are there. So out of, based on how many class labels you have, 2 class labels. What is the probability of each class label? You have to calculate. Probability of spam is 3 by 5, not spam is 2 by 5. These values are required in future calculations, so we have calculated. What is the new email message? X is equal to so and so message. I can't type this every time, so I have stored it in X. Now what I need to find is probability of spam in general is 0.6. Probability of not spam in general is 0.4. But probability of spam for a given X, I need to calculate. Probability of spam, not spam, for given X, I need to calculate. And the one which gives me the more value, that will be my conclusion or decision. So similar to cancer detection problem, we are going to solve this problem, but we come across certain different problems which you have not seen in cancer detection, right? Some new things you will find in text classification. Those new things were not found because the data set, previous data set was different. The data set which now we are dealing is totally different. So in text classification, we will be seeing some important as well as interesting points while solving this problem. So in our next class, in tomorrow's class, we will continue to solve this problem, and those few interesting points will be covered in tomorrow's class. And I expect you to join before 9:30 because I can't wait for you people to join, and I need to solve this problem. It will take some time. So my dear friends, please join in time. So I hope till this point things are clear. So we will meet in the next class and we'll continue to solve this problem. Thank you.